In a series of editorials and speeches made in 1861, Frederick Douglass eloquently argued, "Slavery is not only the cause of the beginning of this war, but slavery is the sole support of the rebel cause. We wage war against the slaveholding rebels and yet protect and augment the motive which has moved the slaveholders to rebellion. We strike at the effect and leave the cause unharmed. This war with the slaveholders can never be brought to a desirable termination until slavery, the guilty cause of all our national troubles, has been totally and forever abolished." In his speech, Frederick Douglass was responding to President Abraham Lincoln's decision to preserve the Union at any cost, even if that meant supporting slaveholding states. It was important to President Lincoln that he maintain the support of Northern Democrats, most of whom had little or no objection to slavery in the South. Lincoln and Congress were explicit in declaring that they wanted to restore the Union without interfering with slavery. He was determined to keep Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri in the Union. Otherwise, he felt that the Union cause would be in serious jeopardy. In Lincoln's defense, many wars have been won simply by having the largest population. At the war's outbreak, the South was outmanned by the North. 18.9 million Americans lived in the North versus 8 million Americans that lived in the South. The overwhelming numbers, along with other resources, had a critical impact upon the course and outcome of the war. Lincoln's position of not linking the war to slavery and refusing to mobilize black manpower was seriously reconsidered in upcoming months. As we learned in the previous episode, The White Man's War, free blacks were denied the right to enlist in both the Union and Confederate armed forces. With nearly 4 million blacks enslaved in the South and 500,000 free in the North, Black Americans would soon become a critical population. In addition to having a larger population, northern states manufactured 90% of the country's firearms in 1860. The South grew plenty of food and had the capacity to produce wagons, harnesses, shoes, and clothing. These things seemed easier to develop than having the industrial base to produce gunpowder, cannons, and rifles. Therefore, the Confederacy purchased arms and ammunition from Europe. Gradually, the South established armories and foundries in several states to manufacture small arms and artillery. In 1860, 40% of the northern workforce was engaged in agriculture. In the South, agriculture made up 80% of the workforce, including slaves. Many Southerners invested in slaves to produce more cotton. Northerners invested in manufacturing companies, railroads, steamships, banks, insurance companies, and other aspects of modern economic development. In sum, the North was resource-rich and the South resource-poor. The Confederacy's main hope rode with its army. In June 1861, the Confederacy came closer to matching the Union in mobilized manpower than at any other time in the war. From 1862 onward, actual Union manpower superiority was about 2.5 to 1 over the Confederacy. Many people on both sides believed that the war would be short. 1 or 2 battles and the cowardly Yankees or slovenly rebels would give up. But responsible leaders on both sides did not share this popular faith. In the spring of 1861, most Northern leaders thought in terms of a limited war. In 1861, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman pointed out, "You might as well attempt to put out the flames of a burning house with a squirt gun. I think this is to be a long war, very long, much longer than any politician thinks." On July 21, 1861, the first major battle of the Civil War took place at Manassas Junction, Virginia. The First Battle of Bull Run, or First Battle of Manassas, resulted in a Confederate victory to the consternation of the Union Army. The paradox of Bull Run is that its legacy of confidence both hurt and helped the South. The embarrassment and renewed determination both hurt and helped the North. In 1865, at the close of the war at Appomattox, Confederate General Robert E. Lee gave his farewell address to the Army of Northern Virginia. After 4 years of arduous service, marked by unsurpassed courage and fortitude, the Army of Northern Virginia has been compelled to yield to overwhelming numbers and resources.